Obinna had grown up with dust on his sandals and hunger in his stomach. He was clever, though, and cleverness made him restless. Every time he passed the gates of Chief Ayayi's mansion, he felt a fire twist in his chest. Beyond those gates lived Morenike, the chief's only daughter, golden like dawn. She was beauty wrapped in wealth, while he was poverty wrapped in rags. But Obinna was no fool. He had heard the rumors. Chief Ajayi wanted only a suitor of great riches for his daughter. Princes, oil magnates, young men with fleets of cars. So Obinna's heart hatched a dangerous dream. If the world would never let him touch silk, he would become silk himself, even if only a disguise. And so he began weaving lies as carefully as tailors stitch lace, planning to step into a world that did not belong to him. Obinna borrowed, begged, and stole scraps of finery from Lagos markets. A tailor friend stitched together an agbada of cream and gold from fabrics that didn't quite match, but glittered well enough in the sun. He polished his shoes until they shone like wealth itself. He practiced speaking with the slow, confident drawl of princes he had observed from afar. By the time he stood before the mirror again, the poor man had vanished. In his place stood Prince Adewale, a figure of dignity, wealth, and confidence. Obinna smiled bitterly. "If they want a prince, let them have one," he whispered. The lie had been born, and soon it would walk boldly into Chief Ajayi's compound. Morenike loved roses more than gold. She spent hours in the garden, trimming, watering, letting her fingers brush petals like silk. Suitors came often, men in polished cars, voices dripping with money. But she found them shallow, their laughter brittle. "Papa, I want a man who sees me, not my dowry," she once told Chief Ajayi. He only laughed. "Love is for children, my daughter. Wealth is for legacy." The day Obinna arrived as Prince Adewale, Morenike was in her garden. She looked up from her roses and saw him standing tall in cream agbada. His smile was gentle, practiced, but disarming. For a moment, her heart fluttered. Perhaps, she thought, this one was different. She did not know that lies wore silk that day. Obinna played his role to perfection. He spoke of lands he did not own, businesses that never existed, friends in high places whose names he had memorized from newspapers. Chief Ajayi's eyes glittered with approval. Here, at last, was the suitor he desired. Morenike's eyes, however, glittered differently. She found herself drawn not to his wealth, but to his gentleness, the way he asked about her roses, her books, her quiet dreams. At night, Obinna lay awake, guilt gnawing at his ribs. He had stolen moments that weren't his to hold, but he pushed the fear aside. "If this is the only way to touch her world," he muttered, "then I will live the lie until it kills me." Chief Ajayi wasted no time. A wealthy son-in-law meant glory for his name. The mansion blazed with lights and drummers pounded rhythms that shook the earth. Guests wore asoebi in glittering gold, and the air smelled of jollof and roasted goat. Morenike walked down the aisle draped in lace and coral, her eyes fixed shyly on Obinna. He smiled back, his lie burning bright. When they signed the register, his hand trembled slightly. For a fleeting moment, he imagined confessing everything. But when Morenike's soft fingers touched his, he swallowed the truth like poison. The crowd cheered as they became husband and wife, and Obinna, the imposter groom, felt chains of his own making tighten around his heart. The honeymoon was a spectacle Chief Ajayi funded generously. Obinna and Morenike were paraded through hotels, beaches, and banquets, photographers capturing every smile. Yet beneath the laughter, Obinna's chest tightened. He walked halls of marble, but his heart was clay, fragile and cracking. At night, when the music faded, he lay beside Morenike, staring at the ceiling. She whispered, "You seem far away, Adewale." He forced a smile. "I am only thinking of the future." But inside, the future he imagined was one where truth rose like floodwaters, drowning everything he loved. Back at the mansion, the first crack appeared. A servant girl paused while pouring palm wine, staring at Obinna's face. Later, she whispered to another, "I know him. He is no prince. He is from the village near Onitsha. His name is Obinna." The rumor spread quietly, like smoke under a door. Morenike noticed the shift in the servant's eyes. They bowed, but their respect was tainted with doubt. When she asked her husband about his hometown, his answer was too quick, too polished. For the first time, suspicion brushed her heart like a cold wind. One afternoon while visiting the market, Obinna's mask nearly cracked. A trader called out, "Obinna, it has been long." Obinna froze, his hand tightening on Morenike's wrist. Quickly, he laughed it off. "Ah, mistaken identity. So many faces in Lagos." But Morenike's eyes narrowed, confusion clouding her smile. That night, she asked, "Why did that man call you Obinna?" His heart pounded, but he managed to chuckle. "People mistake princes all the time. It is envy." Morenike nodded slowly, but inside unease bloomed. The name, Obinna, echoed in her mind long after he had kissed her forehead and turned away. Morenike began to watch him differently. She studied the way he stumbled over certain details, the way his stories of estates grew vague when pressed. She asked about his supposed foreign friends. His answers were rehearsed, shallow. In her diary, she wrote, "Something does not add up. If love is truth, why does he hide so much?" Obinna felt her distance. She laughed less, touched him less. He cursed himself for weaving a net of lies that now trapped them both. He wanted to confess, to beg her to love the man beneath the silk. But fear chained his tongue. The village festival came, with drums, masquerades, and processions of chiefs. Obinna walked proudly beside Morenike, but his pride collapsed when an old woman cried out from the crowd, "Obinna, son of Kalu, I bathed you as a child." The masquerades froze mid-dance, villagers staring. Morenike's heart lurched, the name again. Obinna. He pulled her quickly away, laughter forced. "Old women ramble, pay no mind." But Morenike's eyes burned with betrayal. The mask he wore was cracking. In that moment, she realized her marriage might not only be false, it might also be broken. The rumors spread like Harmattan fire. By the time Morenike and Obinna returned from the festival, half the town was buzzing. "He is no prince," the market women whispered. "He is Obinna, the poor man's son." The servants in Chief Ayayi's mansion bowed stiffly now, their eyes sharp with judgment. Morenike confronted him that night. "Who are you, truly?" she demanded. Obinna's lips parted, but no sound came. At last he whispered, "I only wanted you." But his confession was thin as smoke, carrying no comfort. Her tears fell silently, each drop heavier than his lies. Chief Ajayi summoned Obinna at dawn. The compound blazed with rage. "You fraud," he thundered, striking his cane against the earth. "You dared deceive me, my family, my daughter. You wore silk stitched with lies." Obinna fell to his knees, begging, "Forgive me, I only wanted a chance." But the chief's voice was thunder. "A chance? You have dragged my name into mud." He ordered the guards, "Throw him out, strip him of every gift." Morenike stood silently behind, tears streaking her face, unable to plead for him, her trust shattered too deeply. Obinna stumbled into the streets with nothing but the clothes on his back. Children pointed, laughing. Traitors spat. Liar, imposter. His name was ash now, his lie burnt to dust. He wandered to his old village where shame clung to him like dust. Even there, people shook their heads. "Ambition without truth is poison," the elders muttered. At night, he lay on a mat in a friend's hut, staring at the roof. He had touched gold but returned with nothing. His heart ached, not for the lost wealth, but for Morenike, the only truth he had ever wanted. Back in the mansion, Morenike could not escape whispers. At gatherings, women sneered, "The heiress fooled by a beggar." She walked with her head high, but her heart cracked. At night, she wrote in her diary, "I love not the prince, but the man beneath." Does that make me a fool? Or him? She looked at the roses in her garden, petals wilting in the dry season. They mirrored her heart, something once tender, now curling at the edges. And still, she could not erase the memory of his eyes when he said, "I only wanted you." Obinna tried to rebuild. He worked in a mechanic's shed, grease staining his hands, sweat soaking his shirt. Each day was heavy, but his pride burned less and his humility more. He no longer dreamed of palaces, only of earning bread with honest sweat. One evening, as he wiped grease from his face, he whispered to the night, "If she can never forgive me, I will still live true. I will be Obinna, son of Kalu, nothing more, nothing less." For the first time he felt free, not from poverty, but from lies. Weeks turned to months, and though shame still clung to Obinna, his hands found purpose. He worked from dawn till dusk in the mechanic's yard, his muscles hardening, his face lined with grit. People who once mocked now nodded grudgingly. "At least the boy works," they muttered. One evening, a child brought him roasted corn as thanks for fixing his father's motorcycle for free. Obinna smiled faintly, breaking the cob in half to share with the boy. For the first time in years, he felt dignity, not borrowed through lies, but earned through sweat. Morenike, meanwhile, suffered her own trials. Suitors withdrew, whispers followed her like shadows. At the market, women hissed, "The girl who couldn't see through rags." Yet she carried herself with dignity, though loneliness pressed against her like iron. One night she opened her diary again. "He lied, but was I not happier with the lie than with these hollow truths?" She closed the book quickly, ashamed of her own heart. Yet in her dreams she still saw Obinna, not as prince but as man, grease on his hands, eyes full of regret. One afternoon, as Obinna worked on a broken Peugeot, a familiar voice called his name. He looked up and froze. Morenike stood there, elegant yet subdued, her eyes clouded with questions. The villagers nearby gasped, murmuring. For a long moment, silence held them. Obinna wiped his hands nervously. "Morenike." She held his gaze. "So it is true. You are Obinna." His head bowed. "Yes, I am Obinna, and nothing more." For the first time, his confession was not a lie, not a disguise, but truth laid bare. Morenike walked closer, ignoring whispers. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why deceive me?" Obinna's voice cracked. "Because no one would give a poor man a chance. I thought if I wore silk I could reach you. But I lost you the moment I lied." His words trembled, but they were the first honest ones he had spoken to her. For a moment, Morenike said nothing. Then she whispered, "I never wanted a prince. I only wanted a man who would see me beyond gold." Her tears fell, not from anger now, but from sorrow at what could have been. That night, Obinna sat alone under the stars, replaying her words. She had not forgiven him, but neither had she turned away. Hope stirred faintly, fragile as a seed in dry soil. He vowed aloud, "I will not chase her with lies again. If love finds me, it will find me as Obinna, son of Kalu." From her balcony across town, Morenike gazed at the same stars, clutching her diary. Her heart was torn, but one truth grew clear. She had seen the man beneath the silk, and though broken, he was real. For the first time since the wedding, she allowed herself a small smile. Trouble came quickly. Obinna's rivals at the mechanic yard mocked loudly when Morenike visited again. "See how the princess comes to dine with grease," one shouted, laughter ringing. Obinna clenched his fist but stayed calm. Morenike, however, turned, her voice sharp. "Better grease than gold stolen with lies." The market fell silent, stunned by her boldness. Her words shielded him, but they also cut him. She still carried his betrayal like a scar. That night, Obinna worked until his hands bled, determined to prove that dignity could shine even from dust. Chief Ajayi summoned Morenike. His voice was cold but tired. "Do not shame me again. Forget that boy. Your path is with men of power, not beggars." Morenike lifted her chin. "Papa, power without honor is rot. He may have lied, but at least he works. At least he fights." The chief slammed his cane, but in his eyes flickered a trace of doubt. For all his bluster, he saw in Obinna something he had forgotten in wealth: hunger, drive, survival. Yet pride chained his tongue, and he dismissed his daughter with a wave. Disaster struck when a truck overturned near the village, spilling goods. Thieves rushed to steal, but Obinna waded in, helping drag injured men from the wreck. He worked tirelessly, binding wounds with his own shirt, shouting for help. Morenike, arriving with others, saw him not as a liar, not as a prince, but as a man. Villagers whispered, he saved lives with his hands. Even Chief Ayayi, standing at the edge, could not ignore the sight. For the first time, shame lifted from Obinna's name. His deeds began to rewrite what his lies had destroyed. That evening, Morenike found him washing blood from his hands at the well. Obinna, she whispered, using his true name fully for the first time. He froze. Yes, I am Obinna, nothing more. She stepped closer. And that is enough. Her voice cracked, but her eyes held no doubt. He bowed his head, tears stinging. I stole your trust. I cannot ask for your heart again. She touched his arm gently. You don't need to ask. You only need to keep being true. For the first time, his heart felt free, because her love was now for the man, not the mask. Months later, they wed again. Not in golden lies, but in truth. The ceremony was simple. A canopy under the mango tree. Villagers gathered with drums and laughter. Obinna wore a clean but modest wrapper. No silk, no crown. Morenike shone in plain lace, her smile brighter than any jewel. When the elder asked if she chose this man, Morenike's voice rang strong. Yes, Obinna, son of Kalu. And when he vowed his love, it was with no disguise, only truth. The crowd cheered, drums thundered, and this time the marriage was not false. It was real, and it was theirs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more timeless tales. See you next time.